Hello and welcome to Sustainapod, the podcast produced by young people for young people about the world of sustainability. We talk with leading professionals and change makers about what it takes to build a more sustainable present and future, sharing the stories, tips, and insights for you to take action. My name is Christine, and today I'll be co-hosting this episode with Hannah. We'll be exploring the topic of sustainable investing, specifically how sustainable finance is playing a key role to protect and restore nature. Terrestrial and marine ecosystems play an immensely important role for climate action and also for the lives of communities around the world. So it's really important that the public and private finance is engaged for the sake of retaining the world's biodiversity. We're very excited to discuss this topic with a seasoned professional and expert in this field, Chloe Cheung. Chloe is WWF's Asia Pacific Regional Lead of Sustainable Debt Capital Markets and is leading WWF's regional effort for impacting investing to originate, advise, develop, and mobilize capital towards scalable, bankable projects with measurable positive environmental and social impact. So thank you, Chloe, for joining us, and it's a pleasure to have you on Sustainable.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very thrilled by the immense passion the younger generation has for sustainability.
So, first question, can you please tell us about your career journey so far and what your current role involves?
Sure. So I had a background in investment analysis and M&A, and I transitioned to the sustainable side of finance about 5 years ago, specializing in sustainable and impact investing. Been a rewarding experience working with passionate individuals who have inspired me with their expertise and perspectives. I also felt that sustainable finance is not just about finances. So I did a master's degree in corporate environmental governance as I made the transition. So it's really nice to be able to put my education into practice. Currently, as you said, I lead sustainable finance at WWF in Hong Kong. I work with investors, banks, corporates, and regulators to help influence the financial systems to improve the integration of environmental risks, promote sustainable and impact investments, and hopefully eventually drive sustainable practices through other sectors. More specifically, I focus on sustainable finance taxonomies, ESG integration, climate and nature-related disclosure standards and metrics such as TNFD, the nature-related financial disclosures, blended finance, and sustainable debt capital markets.
So, what did you want to pursue a career in the field of sustainable investing?
Sure. So I have a background in fundamental analysis, and as a nerd, I find it fascinating to analyze the investment potential of companies and industries. However, I learned more and more about the world of finance. I also became increasingly concerned about the environmental and social impacts of certain industries and practices. And I came to realize that the decisions we make as investors can have a profound impact on the world around us, for better or worse. So in this field, sustainable investing, we have the opportunity to use our financial resources to support companies that are not just profitable, but also responsible. We can invest in businesses that help scale the efforts to tackle the world's most pressing challenges, for example, climate change and biodiversity loss. And sustainable investing is not just about doing good, it's also about doing well. There's plenty of research and evidence have shown that companies with strong environmental, social, and governance or ESG practices can be just as profitable, if not more so, than the less profitable, responsible counterparts. So in other words, sustainable investing represents a win-win situation.
Yeah, that's very interesting to know. And I can see that there's a lot of opportunities in this field, but there might also be a lot of challenges. So, though there has been some progress towards sustainable investing, the phenomenon of greenwashing is still largely present in sustainability. What is the risk landscape for greenwashing in investing, and how can it be mitigated?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Greenwashing has been such a hot topic. It's a complex topic. It's about market integrity and transparency And it goes beyond sustainable finance. It's the whole financial system. So whether it's intentional or unintentional greenwashing, its associated risks are substantial. It can create confusion and undermine genuine efforts towards sustainability because of the loss of confidence and trust in the market, especially for retail investors. So it can deter capital towards green assets or green transition where we urgently need financing to accelerate the transition. So as you said, how to mitigate that? We need more transparency and accurate reporting of sustainability related information to ensure investors they have access to reliable data and reporting frameworks such as the European Sustainable Reporting Standard, the ESRS, the GRI, TCFD, TNFD, so all these alphabet soup. They are designed to do that. And just like financial data, sustainability data they also need to be independently verified to validate sustainability claims. We also need to strengthen regulatory oversight and enforcement to discourage misleading sustainability claims, for example, by setting and enforcing standards, ensuring compliance, and penalizing greenwashing practices, as we have seen a number of instances being fined recently. So from what I've seen, there has been progress. For example, asset managers are now more careful. There is less and less intentional greenwashing because of litigation and reputational risks. And as a result, they have toned down their ESG labeling and marketing materials. And lastly, we need to establish clear definitions and standards for sustainable investments. And this includes developing sustainable finance taxonomies, frameworks, and guidelines that clarify what constitutes sustainable or green investments.
Thank you so much, Chloe. And I agree with you. Like, we need to have definitions, guidelines, and regulations to discourage misleading sustainability claims. And let's move on to the next question.
Yes, sure. For our next question, we wanted to ask, what is sustainable finance taxonomy?
Sure, the sustainable finance taxonomy is a classification framework, or you can see it as a dictionary that defines what is sustainable or green by economic activity. For example, if you are looking at a project that is for airport expansion, for instance, and you want to know if this project is considered environmentally green or harmful, a sustainable finance taxonomy helps to define that by providing clear definitions and criteria. A taxonomy helps investors identify sustainable investment opportunities and avoid investments that are environmentally harmful. So it creates transparency and prevents greenwashing. And this is crucial for scaling up sustainable finance. So this is about providing the market confidence that capital is being deployed sustainably and ultimately driving finance towards sustainable development and green projects.
That sounds interesting. I would also like to ask a personal question about what you said earlier. Could you explain to me what greenwashing is?
Yeah, greenwashing. There are different definitions, but I think the key concept for greenwashing is making claims that cannot be supported by evidence. So making environmental green claims about products and services or investment products that are actually not backed up by evidence.
As you've just mentioned, it helps to identify sustainable opportunities and it also increases market confidence. So it's like really important. How are you working towards developing sustainable finance taxonomies that are more effective and credible so that it increases the transparency and market confidence, and I've just mentioned?
Sure, that's a great question. So we work with governments to make sure key principles are incorporated when they design a taxonomy. Let me provide some context and explain. European Union and China have been at the forefront of governments and countries follow suit. More than 30 is being developed globally. So we need to make sure these taxonomies can talk to each other, or what we call interoperable. For instance, if you have a green project in China looking to attract investments from Europe, you would want alignment between the China and EU taxonomies without having to report against two different sets of KPIs, each being defined differently. So having a common language is crucial to avoid confusion and greenwashing. And alignment also reduces transaction costs for companies and investors. Another principle, for example, is that we need to make sure nature and biodiversity is taken into consideration when governments develop taxonomies, because it's clear all economic activities are dependent on nature and the well-being of our ecosystems. We can't solve climate change without a healthy ecosystem. But we found that in our research, more than half of the 30 taxonomies being developed around the world right now do not currently consider nature-related aspects, and this will increase the risk of greenwashing. And lastly, we also try to make sure taxonomies are science-based. As you've probably seen on the news, the inclusion of nuclear and gas in the EU taxonomy has created a huge controversy, and this would open the door for greenwashing and undermine the taxonomy's credibility, which is counterproductive to building market confidence.
And as you've just mentioned, that there's a lot of people that's undermining this problem. How do we drive accountability amongst stakeholders to commit to more responsible kinds of investment that don't have adverse unintended social and environmental harms?
Yeah, that's a great question. Governments definitely can play a crucial role. And I think the first thing they can do is to cut harmful subsidies immediately. Governments around the world, they are spending trillions every year. So that is 23 million a minute. So every minute, according to World Bank, they are spending trillion subsidies on harmful activities, for example, fossil fuels, unsustainable agriculture and fisheries, making climate change worse and driving the degradation of our ecosystem. So we need to repurpose these wasteful subsidies and create meaningful incentives, for example, tax breaks or concessional capital for investments in sustainable development. And for regulators, they can encourage or enforce companies and investors to adopt transparent reporting of their ESG performance. So this can be done through standardized metrics and frameworks, which look at double materiality, so looking at both impact and financial materiality, such as the GRI and the ESRS. And this might include mandatory ESG risk disclosure and due diligence requirements. And for investors and shareholders, they can use their voting rights and engagement activities to push companies to improve their ESG performance. And this can be particularly effective through what we call collective engagement when coordinated across a large group of investors. And then for consumers, employees, and the general public like you and I, we can also push companies and investors to be more responsible through our buying decisions, our employment choices, and public advocacy. And then for NGOs, civil societies, and academic institutions, they can provide education and training to investors and financial professionals about the importance of ESG considerations and how to integrate these into investment decision making process. By combining these strategies, it's possible to create a strong push towards more responsible investing that minimizes social and environmental harms.
Yeah, I agree. The public and individuals needs to work against like these problems, and we can do that from like basically from employment and also like mandatory ESG reporting for the firms.
So, since this is our last question, what advice would you give to high school and university students interested in pursuing a career in sustainable finance?
I think for students, before you pick your career path, it's always very important to ask yourself why you choose that field and what is your long-term vision, what inspires you, what makes your heart sing. So once you've decided your career path, and if you have decided you want to pursue a career in sustainable finance, I would suggest students to focus on building a solid foundation in finance or economics and sustainability. Having a strong understanding of financial markets, investment analysis, environmental and social issues, and sustainable business practices. These are all very important. And you can consider pursuing a degree or reputable academic program and get relevant experience. And you can get experience by building connections within the sustainable finance industry, attend conferences, webinars, and networking events, listening to your podcasts. Be proactive and ask for mentorship from experienced practitioners who can provide insight and advice. Look for internships, volunteer opportunities, practical experience. They will enhance your understanding and demonstrate your commitment to the field. And then you can also explore and identify specific areas within sustainable finance that you want to focus on. Is it impact investing? Is it green bonds? Or is it ESG integration? So developing an expertise in a particular niche can differentiate yourself and you can contribute effectively. And then I think it's also very important to understand the international dimension of sustainable finance, understand and explore global frameworks, standards, and initiatives to broaden your perspectives and adapt to the evolving landscape. And in terms of soft skills, I think it's always important to develop skills such as critical thinking, analytical abilities, communication, and collaboration. So these are all valuable across different roles within sustainable finance. And lastly, I think sustainable finance is such a rapidly evolving sector. You need to keep constantly learning and keep an open mind and be adaptable to changes in the field and stay committed and continue learning and embrace the journey.
We would like to ask, like, if a master's degree is needed for doing this sustainable investing.
I don't think it's absolutely necessary. It really depends on your background. What's your bachelor degree? And as I said, I think expertise, qualification in both finance and sustainability are very important. And I know there are a lot of short-term courses, certificates out there who, that will teach you different areas within sustainable finance. But I think the importance and the benefit of having, learning environmental governance or environmental sciences is the systems thinking and the intermultidisciplinary approach where it's usually not taught in a finance degree because sustainability it's really about the system. It's not just about one section, one sector, or one area. Everything is interconnected. So having that mindset in making decisions, whether it's operational decisions or investment decisions on sustainability, that's very important.
Yeah, I agree. And also, like,
Yeah.
doing internships and having actual, like, experience is also really
Thank you for having me. I
So
hope
thank you so much.
it has been helpful.
Yes, thank you so much, Chloe, for joining me and Christine today on this very special episode and for sharing your insights. Thank you to Sustainable listeners for tuning in this week with us. We would love to hear from you about the episode, so let us know your questions and comments by messaging us on Instagram at sustainapodgih or email us at sustainapod@gmail.com. That's it for this episode. Thank you.
Thank you.